The forest that did not echo. I did not volunteer for that road. None of us truly did. We were chosen because we were still breathing, after other roads had already taken men better than us. There were 6 of us when we left the stone gate of High Carith, just before sunrise, when the fog still clung to the ground like something unwilling to let go. The gate closed behind us with no ceremony, no blessing, no speech, just the sound of iron on iron, and the slow scrape of wood settling back into place. I remember thinking that the fortress sounded relieved. Sir Garrick walked at the front. He had the look of a man who had survived, not because he was stronger, but because he learned when not to push his luck. His armor was old, patched in places, cleaned but never polished. He carried his sword low, as if he expected to need it quickly, but hoped not to need it at all. Behind him came Halvan, carrying the banner rolled tight against its pole. No colors flying, no symbols shown. The order was clear. We were not there to announce ourselves. Whatever waited ahead already knew enough. My name is Thomas. Before I continue, let me know where you're listening to this from. Thanks. I walked third, counting steps, watching the ground, listening. I had been told to remember, to observe, to survive if possible, to speak if no one else could. The others followed in no particular order. Bran, broad-shouldered and quiet, who smelled faintly of oil and iron. The brothers, Leoric and Fen, always close together, never speaking much when others were around. And Edric, too young, too alert, trying too hard not to show it. 6 men, 1 road. The forest took us before the sun fully rose. At first it was just a forest. Tall trees, dark trunks, needles and leaves damp with morning. Birds called from above. Somewhere deeper in, something small ran through the undergrowth. Normal sounds, familiar ones. We walked in silence, not because we were afraid yet, but because there was no reason to speak. By midday, the light had changed. It wasn't darker, not exactly. It was thinner, as if the sunlight had to pass through something unseen before it reached us. Shadows stretched longer than they should have. Colors dulled. The greens of the leaves lost their warmth. "Do you hear that?" he asked. We listened. Nothing. No buzzing. No clicking. No wings brushing past our ears. Garrick frowned. "Forests go quiet sometimes." "Yes," Bran said, "but not like this." We moved on, but slower. That night, we camped without a fire. The wood nearby was damp, and Garrick didn't want smoke. We ate cold rations and drank sparingly. The forest around us stood still, not watching, not listening, simply present in a way that felt heavy. I took the second watch. The dark was deep, but not complete. I could see the outlines of the trees, their roots breaking the surface of the ground, like bones. I listened for footsteps, for breathing, for anything that did not belong. I heard none of it. What I did hear, after a long while, was a sound that did not come from around us. It came from below. It was not loud, not sharp, just a low, slow exhale, like stone shifting deep underground. I told myself it was the earth settling. I told myself it was water moving through rock. I did not wake the others. By morning the sound was gone, and I wondered if I had imagined it. The second day took us deeper. The path narrowed, not from overgrowth, but from roots. Thick, black roots rose from the soil and crossed one another, forcing us to step carefully. Some were warm to the touch, not hot, just warmer than the air. Edric noticed first. He knelt and pressed his palm against one, then pulled it back quickly. "Feel that," he said. Fen tested it himself, then nodded once. "It's wrong." Garrick said nothing. He only adjusted the strap of his shield and kept moving. By midday, we found the deer. It lay on its side near a cluster of low trees, its legs folded beneath it as if it had simply decided to rest and never stood again. There were no wounds, no torn flesh, no blood, but the fur along its flank was burned, not charred, not blackened, melted. The hair had fused together, clinging to skin that looked smooth and tight, as if pressed by heat and held there. Edric swallowed hard. "Fire." "No," Garrick said. "Breath." None of us asked him to explain. We did not eat that day. The third night, the forest began to change its shape. The trees grew closer together, their branches twisting inward. The ground sloped downward, almost without us noticing. Roots thickened, overlapping, forming natural walls that blocked our view beyond a few steps. It felt less like walking through a forest, and more like descending into something that had been growing for a very long time. Leoric slipped once and caught himself on a root. He froze. "Don't move," Garrick said. The root beneath Leoric's hand had shifted, slowly, not like something alive, more like something alive, more like something adjusting its weight. Leoric withdrew his hand, inch by inch. The root settled again. No one spoke for several minutes. On the fourth day, we smelled ash. It wasn't strong. It wasn't fresh. It was old, layered, soaked into bark and soil and stone. The kind of smell that never fully leaves a place, no matter how much time passes. The ground beneath our feet grew firmer, darker. Stone showed through the dirt in long, smooth patches, as if polished by repeated contact. Halvin whispered, "We should turn back." Garrick stopped and turned to face him. "We passed the last point of turning 2 days ago," he said calmly. "Now we only choose how far we go before stopping." No one argued. Near dusk, we reached the place where the forest ended without ending. The trees did not thin out. They bent inward. Their roots rose and tangled, forming a massive, interwoven arch that sank into a wide in the ground. The crack was not jagged. It was smooth, worn, deliberate. Warm air flowed from it, not a rush, not a blast, a steady, breathing warmth. We stood at the edge and looked down. The light did not reach far, but we could see stone walls, descending, marked with long grooves and smooth scars. The floor below reflected a faint, dull red glow, pulsing slowly, like embers buried beneath ash. Edric whispered, "It's awake." Garrick rested a hand on his sword. "No," he said. "It's listening." We did not enter immediately. We waited, standing among the roots, feeling the heat rise, feeling the forest behind us press close, as if urging us forward. I remember thinking then that the forest was not guarding the thing below. It was growing around it, and whatever lay beneath those roots had been there long enough for the world above to reshape itself in response. When Garrick finally stepped forward, we followed, because there was nowhere else left to go. We rested at the mouth of that crack, longer than we should have. Not because we wanted to admire it, not because we were arguing, or praying, or building courage the way men like to pretend they can. We waited because every instinct in my body insisted that once we stepped down into that warmth, we would not step back out the same way. The air drifting up from the opening carried no clear scent of wet stone or old earth. It smelled, worked, like a forge that had been put out hours ago. The heat still trapped inside the bricks, ash Iron, something resinous, like sap, burned too slowly. Halvin kept the banner rolled tight. He held it like a club, as if cloth and wood could protect him from whatever was below. Bran stood with his shield angled down, staring into the dark, as if he expected eyes to appear at any second. The brothers Leoric and Fen did not look at the crack at all. They looked at the roots around it, the way they arched and braided into a kind of living gate. They watched the roots the way sailors watch rigging in a storm, waiting for a single wrong twitch. Edric kept swallowing, like he was trying to force his fear down his throat and keep it there. Sir Garrick did not ask if anyone was ready. He did not rally us with speeches. He simply tested the edge of his sword with his thumb, then stepped forward. The warmth touched his greaves first, then his knees, then the bottom of his cuirass. It looked like nothing, but I saw the way his breathing changed when it reached his face. He nodded once to himself, then he went down into the crack. We followed in the order we had walked for days. Habit is the last armor men to have when everything else feels thin. I went third, my fingers tight around the strap of my pack, my mouth dry. I tried to remember every detail, the way the stone at the rim was smooth, not fractured, the way the roots curved away from the opening like they were avoiding it, the way the air moved upward in a slow, steady push, as if the earth was breathing. The first dozen steps were steep, not carved, not natural. The walls were too even. There were grooves in them, long, shallow channels that caught the faint red glow from below and carried it upward, like veins under skin. At first I thought the light came from fungus or mineral, some soft, cold thing, but it was warm on my face. We reached a wider shelf and stopped. The crack opened into a descending corridor of stone. It was not a tunnel like miners make, with pick marks and broken edges. This was smoother, melted, and cooled, like something had once burned its way through rock, then left it to harden again. Branset's boots scuffed on the floor, and the sound traveled farther than it should have. It did not echo so much as it was swallowed. The stone ate the noise, and what came back was dull, as if the place refused to give sound back the way a normal cave would. Halvin whispered, barely moving his lips, "It's like we're inside a throat." Garrick lifted a hand for silence. We moved again, slower, careful with every step. The floor sloped, and then leveled, and sloped again. The red glow pulsed faintly through cracks in the stone, a low ember rhythm that made my skin crawl. There was no wind, but the warmth rose in waves, steady as a tide, and then, after what felt like too long and not long enough, we came to the first chamber. It was a broad hollow, the ceiling high enough that our lantern light could not find the top. The stone around us bore the same smooth scars as the corridor, but here the marks were deeper, long furrows that ran in arcs, as if something massive had dragged itself along these walls again and again. In the center of the chamber lay a shape. At first I thought it was a mound of dark rock, a collapse from the ceiling. Then it shifted, not a sudden movement, not a lunge, a slow adjustment, like a sleeping animal rolling to ease a limb. The red lines beneath its surface brightened, then dimmed. I tasted metal on my tongue. Edric made a sound, a small inhale. He couldn't stop. Garrick turned his head sharply, but the damage was already done. The sound had gone out into that chamber like a dropped coin in still water, tiny, but perfectly placed. The mound breathed. It was not the noisy, snorting breath of a beast. It was the kind of breath a mountain would take if mountains were alive, a deep expansion that made the stone under our feet tremble, with gentle force, then a release that carried warm air over us. The heat hit my face, like standing too close to a kiln, and somewhere in that warmth was a faint smell of burned bone. Halvan tightened his grip on the banner pole so hard I heard wood creak. We stood there, 6 men, armor suddenly feeling like costumes. My mind reached for stories, dragons in ballads, dragons in old scripture, dragons painted on chapel walls. Those dragons were symbols, lessons, warnings. This felt like truth, heavy and indifferent. Garrick lifted his sword, but he did not raise it to strike. He held it low and steady, as if he knew that if he lifted it in threat, the thing would answer. The shape moved again, and the red lines between plates of scale glowed brighter. The creature's sep's flank rose and fell. I could see the outline now, the curve of a neck coiled back toward its body, the ridge of a spine like a series of overlapping shields, the bulk of wings folded tight, not feathered, not leathery in the way songs describe, but thick, almost armored, like sails made of hard hide and bone. The head was tucked close, half hidden behind its own shoulder. It could have been a boulder. Then an eyelid slid back, not snapped open, not dramatic. It opened like someone choosing to read the next line of a book. The eye was not gold, not fiery, not jeweled. It was dark, almost the same color as the surrounding Q scale. But it held depth. It reflected our lanterns as tiny, trembling sparks. It looked at us, and I felt something in my chest tighten in a way no battlefield had ever done to. It wasn't fear of dying, It was the sense of being measured. Garrick spoke, and his voice sounded wrong in that chamber, too small to be allowed there. "We are not here to steal," he said. The dragon did not blink. Its gaze moved from Garrick Sepp's sword to Garrick Sepp's face, and it felt, God help me, like curiosity. Fen whispered without meaning to, "It understands." Leoric hissed at him to shut up, but the sound was already loose. The dragon's throat expanded, just slightly. A deeper pulse of heat rolled through the chamber. I realized then that we had stepped into a place where it could kill us all without standing. Garrick took one careful step forward. The stone under his boot did not crack, but a thin line of red light brightened beneath the surface, as if it noticed him, like pressure on a bruise dot. He stopped. "I was told," Garrick said, "that the forest changed, that animals fled, that men vanished." The dragon's eye narrowed a fraction, not anger, focus. Halvan Set's voice came out thin. "Sir," Garrick did not look back. "Quiet," he said. Edric's hand trembled near his dagger, not to draw it, just to feel something solid. The dragon's eye shifted again. It traveled over us, one by one. When it reached me, I felt it like a physical touch, a heat behind my eyes, a pressure in my skull. For a moment, the chamber seemed to tilt. I saw something that was not there, a line of men in different armor, old designs, older than ours, their torches sputtering, their faces pale. I saw a hand reaching out, palm up, as if offering something, then a breath. Not flame yet, just the beginning. A sound like air, igniting. The image vanished, and I staggered half a step. Garrick's head snapped toward me, but he did not ask what I saw. His eyes had gone hard, as if he had felt something too. The dragon blinked once, and in that blink, everything changed, because when its eyelid slid down and up again, its eye was no longer simply watching us. It was deciding. The warmth in the chamber intensified. The red lines along its body brightened, like coals stirred under ash. Bran shifted his stance, a tiny scrape of boot on stone. The dragon's gaze cut to him, and then for the first time, the creature lifted its head, enough that we could see the shape of its jaw and the line of its teeth. They were not the clean, dagger-like fangs I had imagined. They were layered, uneven, like the teeth, weight of a great fish, built for gripping and crushing rather than piercing. Its mouth parted slightly, steam rolled out. Idrik whispered, voice cracking, "Back." Garrick raised his left hand, palm down, steadying us. "No sudden." Fen did something stupid. I don't say that to damn him. I say it because men do stupid things when they can't bear to feel powerless. Fen lifted his shield. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe he thought the dragon was about to strike, and he wanted to be ready. Maybe he simply wanted to feel like a soldier again. The shield edge caught lantern light, a sharp flicker. The dragon's nostrils flared. The chamber went very still. Then came the sound, low, deep, not a roar. A furnace door opening. The breath did not explode outward as a stream. It rolled, a wave. It traveled across the chamber, like a moving wall of heat that bent the air, made the lantern flames bow. It struck Fen first. I did not see him burn the way men burn on a pyre. It was faster and cleaner and worse. His shield glowed red in an instant. The leather straps smoked. The wood blackened. Fen, scream, started and stopped in the same breath. His armor turned dull and then bright, like iron in a forge. I smelled hair, skin, and something sharper, like fat hitting flame. He fell, and when he hit the stone, the sound was not human. It was metal, striking rock. Leoric lunged toward him, and Garrick grabbed him by the shoulder, hard enough to stop him. "No, no, no," Garrick barked. Leoric's face twisted in grief and disbelief, and he would have fought Garrick if Garrick had let him. But Garrick's eyes were wild now, not with panic, but with terrible understanding. "The he chooses," he said, as if naming a law. "It doesn't spread, it selects." Edric backed up too fast. His heel hit a ridge in the stone, and he nearly fell. The dragon Sip's eye followed him. Halvan Sip's voice came out like a sob. "We have to go." Bran didn't answer. He was staring at Fen's body, what was left of it. The armor was still there, partially warped, collapsed. The stone beneath was blackened, in the shape of him. But the smell made my stomach turn. Garrick stepped backward, slow, never turning his back on the dragon. "We leave," he shouted. "Run, now." Leoric made a strangled sound, but he followed, because the alternative was dying with his brother. We retreated the same way, running and stumbling over scattered stones, trying to get out as quickly as possible. The dragon did not rise to chase. It did something worse. It watched. As we backed into the corridor, the heat from the chamber followed us like a hand on the back of my neck. The red glow in the cracks of the stone brightened and dimmed in slow rhythm, as if the place itself had synchronized with the creature's breathing. Halfway up the corridor, Bran stumbled. Not from fear from the stone. The floor shifted under his foot, like settling earth. He caught himself quickly, but the stumble made noise, a small clank of armor. Behind us, from the chamber, came a sound like a slow exhale. The warmth surged, not as an attack, but as a warning. It rolled down the corridor and kissed our backs. I felt it through my armor. It was not just heat. It was presence. Garrick's voice shout. Keep moving. We reached the narrow crack and climbed. The walls felt warmer now, as if the stone had absorbed the dragon's attention. When we broke into the forest air, the cold hit my face, and I realized I had been sweating. My hair clung to my forehead. My mouth tasted like smoke. The forest was not the same as when we entered. The roots around the crack had shifted, not dramatically, but enough that the arch looked tighter, the opening more constricted, as if the trees were slowly knitting themselves closed. Leoric stared at the opening, shaking. He killed Fen like it was nothing, he whispered. Halvan's eyes were wet. It didn't even stand. Bran looked at his hands, as if expecting burns. Edric's voice came out thin and quick. We have to run. We have to get back. To High Kareth. Tell them. Burn the forest. Collapse the crack. Do something. Garrick didn't answer immediately. He stared into the darkness between the roots, listening, his head slightly tilted, like a man trying to catch a distant sound. Then he said, very quietly, "It let us go." That chilled me more than any breath of flame. Why? I asked. Garrick's eyes shifted to me. The lantern light caught the lines in his face, the tired scars, the old bruises beneath the skin. Because it knows where we are going, he said, and it wants something to travel with us. Edric swallowed. What? Gorik looked at the roots again. It marked us, he said, like smoke marks a room. We began moving through the forest, at a fast walk, already walking calmly, because Garrick would not let us break into panic. But we moved with urgency, stepping over roots, pushing through branches, keeping our backs from turning too long to any one direction. The forest remained silent. No birds, no insects, only the soft sound of our own armor and breath. After maybe an hour, maybe less, time had become unreliable. I noticed something on the ground. Thin red lines in the soil, not glowing like embers, but faintly visible, as if the earth itself had been scored and stained. They ran parallel to our path, sometimes crossing beneath roots, sometimes disappearing beneath moss, and reappearing farther ahead. I knelt, ignoring Garrick's warning glance, and touched one line with my fingertip. The earth was warm, not sun warm, alive warm. I pulled my hand back quickly. "Sir," I said, and my voice shook, despite my effort. The ground. Garrick glanced down once, then kept walking. "I know," he said. Hafen tried to keep his voice steady. "What does it mean?" Garrick's jaw tightened. "It means it doesn't need to follow on the surface." Leoric looked like he might be sick. "It sits under us?" he asked, scared. Garrick didn't answer, and that was answer enough. We pushed on until dusk. We did not stop to eat. We did not stop to rest. We only stopped when Garrick found a place where stone broke through the soil in a low ridge, and he judged it less likely that roots could shift under our feet there. We made no fire. We sat in darkness, listening. At some point in the night, I heard it again, the sound I had first heard on my second watch days ago. A low exhale from beneath the ground, not close enough to be certain, not far enough to dismiss. Edric whispered, almost too quiet to catch, "It is coming." Garrick's voice answered him from the dark. "No," he said, "it had already here." And when dawn finally came, pale and weak through the trees, I saw something that made my stomach drop. Our footprints from the previous day, where we had crossed a patch of damp earth, were gone, not filled with leaves, not washed away, simply pressed flat, erased, as if the forest had smoothed the ground behind us, as if it wanted no trail but the one it chose to leave. Garrick stood, armor creaking softly, and looked toward the direction of home. "We keep moving," he said, "and we do not assume the road belongs to us anymore." We started again, and I felt, deep in my bones, that High Carith was no longer the point of safety we imagined. Because something had looked at us in that chamber, something had decided we were useful, and it had let us go, not out of mercy, out of purpose. We did not speak of Fen again, not because we had forgotten him, but because speaking his name felt like inviting something to listen more closely. His absence walked with us between the trees, heavy and unshaped, like a shadow that did not quite belong to any one body. There were 5 of us now. Sir Garrick still led. He walked slower than before, each step deliberate, as if speed itself had become a risk. Haven followed, with the banner bound tighter than ever, the cloth hidden, the pole scraped and blackened where heat had kissed it. Bran walked with his shield lowered, not in readiness, but in fatigue. Leoric walked beside him, silent, hollow-eyed, his brother Set's death sitting on his shoulders, like an extra suit of armor he could not remove. Edric stayed close to me, too close. I could feel his fear in the way he adjusted his stride to match mine, the way his breath shortened whenever the ground beneath us warmed unexpectedly. The forest allowed us to move. There were no branches clawing at us, no roots rising suddenly to trip us, no obvious signs of pursuit, just that silence and the faint, ever-present warmth beneath the soil, like a body too large to fully wake. We walked until the light began to fail. When we finally stopped, it was because Garrick judged the ground beneath us less responsive, as he put it, a ridge of exposed stone, ancient and cold, breaking through the forest floor, like the spine of something long dead. We slept in turns, or tried to. On my watch, I heard it again. The exhale, closer this time, not beneath my feet, but somewhere off to the side, deep and vast, like a bellows drawing breath through layers of earth. The sound made my teeth ache. It did not rush. It did not hurry. It knew we were tired. I woke Garrick. He listened without expression, his head tilted slightly, his eyes unfocused. After a long moment, he said, "It's Setch's justing." "To what?" I whispered. "To us," he said. The next day, the forest began to give us back things we did not want. We found the remains of an old camp near midday, rotten leather, rusted iron rings, a cooking pot split cleanly in 2, its edges warped and melted. There were bones, human, no scorch marks, no obvious violence, just emptied, cleaned in a way that felt intentional. Leoric stared at them too long. Bran touched his arm. "Don't set." Leoric pulled away. They didn't even fight. Garrick knelt near the bones and examined the ground. "They ran," he said. "They just didn't set run far enough." Edric Set's voice trembled. "Is this what happens to everyone?" Garrick did not answer. We moved on. By late afternoon, the red lines beneath the soil became impossible to ignore. They no longer hid beneath moss or leaf litter. They traced wide, lazy curves that paralleled our path, sometimes crossing beneath us, sometimes looping ahead, like something drawing a map. Bran stopped suddenly. We nearly ran into him. "What is it?" Halvin asked. Bran pointed. Ahead, between the trees, the forest floor dipped gently downward into a shallow depression. At its center, the The soil had collapsed inward, revealing a wide, smooth patch of black stone, and on that stone, a footprint. Not a claw, not a paw. A broad, curved indentation, deeper at the heel, shallower at the front, as if something massive had briefly rested part of its weight there before shifting again. Leoric whispered. It came up. Garrick shook his head slowly. No, it tested. Edric backed away. We can outrun it. No, Garrick said, but we can choose how it takes us. That night, Garrick spoke to us plainly for the first time. We will not all reach home, he said. That should be clear now. No one argued. He continued, it does not want bodies. It wants witnesses. It wants knowledge to move beyond this forest. My stomach tightened. It marked us because we can walk where it cannot. Roads, stone, settlements. Halvan Setter's voice broke. Then why kill Fen? Garrick looked at him. To show us it could, he said. Silence followed. Finally, Bran asked the question none of us wanted to speak. Who does it want to carry the story? Garrick's gaze moved over us, lingering briefly on Edric, then on me. I don't think it cares which, he said. Only that one does. The forest did not wait for dawn to take the next one. We were moving through a narrow stretch between two thick stands of trees, when the ground beneath Bran gave way, not collapsing, not breaking. He sank to his knees with a grunt. Leoric lunged to help him. Garrick shouted, "Stop!" Too late. The soil beneath Bran rippled. That is the only word I have for it. Rippled, as if something deep below had shifted its weight directly upward. Heat surged. Bran screamed once. As the metal of his greaves glowed dull red, he fell backward, clawing at the ground, his shield dropping uselessly from his arm. The heat did not spread. It chose. It wrapped around him like an invisible hand and pulled him down. The earth closed over his chest, then his shoulders, then his screaming mouth. When it was done, there was no crater, just smooth soil, warm and faintly steaming. Leoric collapsed to his knees, sobbing, his hands digging into the dirt, until Garrick dragged him back. "Istis learning," Edric screamed. "Istis learning how to take us." Garrick shoved Edric hard enough to knock him off balance. "Move." We run. Not blindly, but desperately, weaving through trees, slipping on roots, lungs burning. The forest blurred around us, the silence shattered by our own ragged breath. Behind us, beneath us, the ground pulsed. I felt it, like a second heartbeat. Halvan stumbled first. He caught himself, but the banner pole struck a tree with a sharp crack. The sound rang dot. The heat came instantly. Halvan did not even have time to scream. The banner burst into flame, not with fire, but with white-hot brilliance. The cloth vanished. The pole blackened, then shattered. Halvan fell, his armor glowing, his body rigid. Garrick did not slow, neither did I. Leoric tried to turn back. Garrick stopped him with a blow to the chest that knocked the air from his lungs. "He set's gone," Garrick roared. "You turn back, and you join him." Leoric screamed in grief, but he ran. There were 3 of us now. The forest thinned ahead. I saw sky, grey, open. The edge of the forest. Hope surged so fast. And that was when the dragon rose. Not fully, never fully. The ground ahead of us split like a wound, opening. Stone shattered, roots snapped and burned. The dragon's head emerged, vast and deliberate, its scales glowing faintly along the seams. Steam poured from its jaws, its eye fixed on us with terrible calm. Garrick stopped. He turned to us. "Listen to me," he said, and his voice was steady again. "It cannot cross open stone easily. It needs soil, roots, cover." Edric sobbed. "Then run." "I will," Garrick said. He looked. "Leoric, you go with Thomas." Leoric shook his head violently. "No, no, no. I won't leave you." Garrick smiled then. "Just a little. You already did," he said gently. "The moment you survived your brother." He turned to me. "Tell them," he said. "Do not let them make songs about it." He smiled. Then he stepped forward. The dragon inhaled. Garrick raised his sword, not to strike, but to draw its attention. The breath came. I did not see him die. I saw light. I felt heat push me forward. I heard Leoric screaming my name as he dragged me away. We ran until the forest ended. Stone road, cold, unyielding. The heat stopped at the edge. Leoric collapsed, laughing and crying at once. Too still. Leoric's laughter cut off. He stared down at his hands. They were shaking. Red lines traced faintly beneath his skin, like veins lit from within. He looked at me, understanding dawning too late. "It followed me," he whispered. He dropped to his knees. The heat came from inside him. I held him as long as I could. He begged me not to let go. When it was over, there was nothing left to hold. I walked the rest of the road alone. I reached High Careth. At dawn, they listened. They always listen at first. They sealed the forest, burned the maps, declared it cursed. They thanked me. They called me brave. At night, the stone beneath my feet grows warm. Sometimes, deep beneath the city, I hear something breathe, and I know it did not fail. It learned. Someday I'll tell you about where else I've been and what dangers I encountered. Let me know in your letters if you want this.